What's up, big boy? Man, very proud, man. Thanks for having me back, Mr. Love. All love from Mr. Love.
Oh, yeah. Man, I'm glad you came back. So, come back to share some Bear Pride, man. We're going to talk a little bit.
For sure.
Basketball. Did you play the other sports? Or you just play
I
basketball?
played football at UConn before I transferred to baseball and track and field, but since I transferred to JM, I concentrated mostly on basketball.
Gotcha. Well, man, here's our man trophy case up in here, up in this thing. You got the Gatorade Player of the Year. You got High School All-American, all of that stuff.
I imagine I feel the same way walking through these halls as you do. You know, it's a lot of, there's some history that we got a chance to pass down, like somebody passed down some history to us. We were able to pass down some history to the younger generation. Absolutely. Get our jerseys up there together. Get our jerseys up there together. And, give some kids some, some
wall of fame.
Hope to look for in the future.
Got mine up here. I was 95. You was 2005 or
2003. 2003. That orange hits a little different.
Yeah, a little different. Yeah,
it's a little different.
Yeah.
Now we're going down to the basketball section.
Yep,
Joe Atkins, Tony Hurd, Reggie Tate.
My boys, my dogs.
D'Angelo McDaniel, my backcourt mate.
Yep.
Adam Liberty, and then you got me up there.
Yep.
I brought my college team here because I was coaching college a few years back, and I brought them back to the new John Marshall. Okay. And got a chance to speak with the current team and show them, where I came from, and like you do, I take a lot of pride from being here. I'm a proud Bear, and I'm honored that I was able to transfer to John Marshall. They were able to welcome me in, and we were able to win the state championship, and I was able to be the only McDonald's All-American out of here.
Okay.
So basketball.
Okay, basketball.
Yeah, we got a lot of great athletes.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Great athletes.
Let's go talk about it.
Let's go talk about it for sure.
What's up, everybody? This is Coach Love with the ROK Podcast, also known as Recruit Oklahoma. I am here with a very special guest, and it's special to me because he is a John Marshall Bear. Okay, no doubt, John Marshall Bear. This young man, he came over for the JM and just lit it up. So he was, in 2003, he was a McDonald's All-American. He played in the 2003 McDonald's All-American games with the dudes like LeBron James, Chris Paul, Luol Deng, just name a few for you. He's also a Parade All-American. In 2003, he was also the Oklahoma Gatorade Player of the Year. Well, on top of that, he was All-State selection, of course, All-City and all that stuff. And he was also a consensus top 25 national recruit. Some media even had him in the top 20 in the country. He was able to get a scholarship to Kansas University, Rock Chalk Jayhawks. Played there a little bit. He was a Big 12 He was on the Big 12 All-Freshman team his freshman year. He then made a pivot to University of New Mexico, where he led New Mexico to a 24-9 record and an NIT appearance. He was also, in 2008, he was the Mountain West Conference Co-Player of the Year, as well as earning first-team conference honors as well. From there, he was drafted in the first round to the Boston Celtics. Okay, I want to give a warm welcome to one of the highest flying dudes that ever came out of Oklahoma. He is a John Marshall Bear, close to my heart. I want to welcome to the ROK Podcast, Mr. JR Giddens. Doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good. And earlier, like I said, it's good that we give credit to the athletes before and after us.
Yeah,
and
man.
For me being Oklahoma, that's something that's very big to me because it's Bear Pride for me all day.
Bear Pride, man. So let's talk about this. Talk about that McDonald's All-Star game. What kind of experience was that? So you got to play against Chris Paul. You were on opposite teams of them, right? Or how was that?
I think I might have been on this. I don't
same
remember because we had the McDonald's All-American game and then we had the Michael Jordan Capital Classic, and they kind of mixed the teams up. But I obviously know I was always on the opposite team as LeBron. Okay. I don't know if I got a chance to run with CP3, but I mean, there were so many other guys in that game that we're missing out on. Yeah. That went out of high school just like LeBron. You got to think about we have Indy Eby, who also went out of high school. We have James Lang, who went out of high school. Kendrick Perkins, who went out of high school.
Perk, yeah.
And then LeBron James, who also went out of high school. So we had so many guys that year go out of high school in 2003.
So tell me kind of how was that game? You scored 16? About 16 to 20 points in that game?
I had 16 points.
Okay.
I think I had like 16 to 7 in the minutes that I was in. I wasn't a starter. I was able to come off the bench, but in the minutes that I was in, I was effective. But that game was amazing. It was a lot of high flyers, a lot of good players. Like you could tell that was the top players in the country playing versus each other. And then, I remember one thing that I always remember about that game is, I was just talking to my friends about it the other day. I'm about 220 pounds. People got to realize back then LeBron was 240 pounds when we were in high school.
In high school, man, that's crazy.
So you got to think about it. That's why he was NBA ready. This guy had a grown man body.
Yeah.
And I'm over here, metabolism slowed down.
Yeah.
I'm 40. I'm 220 I'm feeling cock diesel over here, and this dude still 240
Yeah,
back.
you over here, you look like these Mike poles, right? He had you skinny up in that thing.
Yeah,
so man, where was that game at?
The game was obviously in Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland,
because it's near where LeBron's at, and when you're the number one player in the country in politics and stuff like that, it's better that they have the game there. I think he deserved it as the number one player.
Was there anything else that you remember from that game? Did they fly you out and all that stuff?
Yeah, they flew us out, and I remember my family got a chance to come up and see the game, and it was just the best of the best. And we had a practice game the night before where we went at it, and then just being able to play on ESPN at the highest level, and I think that's the highest honor for any high school basketball player. Being a McDonald's All-American, and it just kind of puts the icing on the cake. The classmates that I had off in that with CP3, LeBron, Luau, and I mean we could talk about Shannon Brown. We could go Von Wafer. I think pretty much everybody out of my McDonald's All-American class, I think everybody made the league at least for a few years.
Okay.
So all of us touched the NBA,
great class.
And it was a really good class.
So let's back it. Let's rewind a little bit, man. So who was the person that put the ball in your hands? So how did you get introduced to basketball?
Well, the crazy part about that is I had a Fisher-Price basketball goal when I was younger.
Okay.
But my dad's a country boy. He didn't play sports. He's from Idabel, Oklahoma. From those
Idabel.
people that know where that is,
Yeah.
Southeast Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And one of my friend's mother was actually babysitting me, and they took me to their football practice.
Okay.
And this was out in Yukon, and so there's not too many black coaches out there. This coach happened to be a black youth coach.
Okay.
His son was on the team. They had a race for all the kids after practice, and so apparently I'm jumping over some tennis nets on the courts, and I don't remember this. So they asked me to race in a race, and I was able to beat everybody by a landslide.
Yeah.
And so the football,
and how old were you?
I was about 6'7".
Jumping over tennis nets?
Yeah,
hell, I can barely jump over that.
Look, so that was the first time that I got recruited. They recruited me to come play football, and the funny thing is I hadn't played one practice or anything, so I went to my first football game. It wasn't a practice, it was a game. So obviously I don't start, but they put me in a quarterback. They hiked the ball to me. I fumbled it. I picked it up. I ran it like 70 yards to the house, and that's how I started playing sports. So if you go to anybody where I'm from, I was a football player before basketball.
Okay, yeah.
So
that's the best sport anyway. So
if you say so.
Yeah, that's the best sport.
CTEs, no, that's what you.
Yeah, man. So growing up in your neighborhood, you grew up in Idabel.
No. I grew up kind of.
Oh, your parents is from Idabel.
Yeah, my dad's from there. I grew up to where on the outskirts of Yukon, kind of like they're between Yukon and War Acres in a neighborhood. Like where Overholser Lake is. There was a neighborhood over there called Stonebridge West. So I grew up in that small neighborhood, and that's where everything started: football, basketball, baseball, track and field.
So how did your family shape your mindset? Like, how did they shape your work ethic?
Well, my dad's a 13th child out of 15, so, he didn't go to school until the harvest was in.
Okay.
And, he wasn't allowed to play sports because you had to work on the farm before and after school. Okay. So my dad instilled that work ethic in me. I think people might remember me for my athleticism and stuff, but I think, the best skill that I had is I just played harder than everybody. And, my dad told me, we're going to make, and my mom, they were my worst critics.
Of course.
We're going to make mistakes. Some days you're going to have good days, some days you're going to have bad days, but effort needs to be every game. And I carried that on with me even still to this day. Anytime I step on that court, anything that I do, I try to put a real effort off into it.
So when you were playing all your sports all day, what was a go-to snack? When you came back in the house?
I think my go-to snack back in the day might have been like a Lunchable.
A Lunchable?
A Lunchable, or as a hood Lunchable to where like we don't have the Lunchables from the stores, but we got some
get 'em
meat
make 'em,
and we
yeah.
got some cheese off in there and some
yeah.
crackers, and we about
No
to
doubt.
put that together real fast.
Right.
So I'd say that was probably my go-to snack.
We had
something
the
like Lunchables.
prepackaged,
Yeah.
prepackaged lunches. Yeah.
Yes.
Was there one moment, as when you were growing up, where you realized that, like, I'm good at this, man. I'm good at sports.
Well, I started dunking from the free throw line and between the legs my sophomore year in high school, and even though that's
Wait a
why
minute, back up. You said from the free throw line between your legs, or
no, I started dunking from the free throw line.
Yeah.
And between the legs,
Oh,
my
okay.
sophomore year
I
in
thought
high
you-
school and 360 dunk stuff.
Okay,
like that.
I thought you said
Yeah.
free between the legs from the free throw line. Nah.
That's James White. I didn't have it like that.
Okay,
but,
okay.
No, at that moment I realized I was pretty good. Unfortunately I left UConn because of the not starting me on the football team, basketball team, baseball team. So once my sophomore season was over with, I was able to get 6A newcomer of the year, and we would play teams like Putnam City Original that had Marcus Hayden. They had Matt Gibson, Keith Smith, Corey Smith, Kenny Smith, C.J. Henry. All of those guys, like they all went Division I, and C.J. went out of high school to the Yankees, and those guys were the most heavily recruited guys in the state at that point. And I remember I had 31 that game, and just having that confidence to go out there versus the best of the best in Oklahoma and give them 30. At that point, I knew that I had a chance to really do something with basketball.
Do you remember your first jersey number?
My first jersey number was 13.
13.
And my birthday's February 13th. But my first real jersey number that I liked was 32. So when I got a chance to pick it, I was 32. And then we got to 7th grade basketball. So they give me the number 15. I come home, I'm boo-hooing, I'm crying. I'm like, they gave me this number. My dad, he checks me on the spot like always. He's like, it's not the number, it's the player in the jersey.
Yeah.
And they gave my number to somebody else, and I felt like I was better than that guy. So I break all the records, 7th grade basketball.
Okay.
So 8th grade basketball comes along, and they were like, "Hey, do you want number 32?" And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna stick with 15, and it's kind of stuck with me ever since until I transferred to John Marshall, and they didn't even have a number 15.
Right.
Then I had to wear 35. But,
Yeah. 35 is a good number.
Hey,
yeah.
Joe Atkins,
Yeah,
right?
Joe
Atkins,
Ward,
he's a great guy. So
Yeah.
he's one of the guys that I grew up looking up to.
Right,
and, Man, I hadn't met him, but there's so many guys before me, before you that we grew up looking up to, and we got a chance to follow their footsteps to one of these universities because it's so tough to make it out of Oklahoma. That's an accomplishment for us out here.
Absolutely, man. We got to the state finals my senior year. And we lost by a point in the state finals.
Oh, wow.
So he was a junior that year. That next year after we graduated, they went undefeated in football and basketball.
Yeah, I remember that year. That was a special year.
I was like, man, y'all could have done it a year earlier. Man, yeah. Okay, so tell me, I saw a fun fact about you, man. So tell me about these favorite TV characters. Steve Urkel and Mr. Rogers. Tell me about that, man.
Man, you know what? Back in the day, it's kind of crazy because we had to play in middle school to where I had to play, Mr. Rogers. And obviously, I was a black Mr. Rogers.
Okay.
I changed off into some nice Jordans and stuff when I was singing my song. But those are shows that I always grew up watching. And then Steve Urkel. The thing that I liked about Steve Urkel is like, if people know me before, I was more nerdy before athletic,
Okay.
I was more brought up for academics until I got off into sports. And so Steve Urkel being, really smart and a black guy on TV at that time. And then, they had that episode to where Steve was balling and he was going off after that. That was one of the guys that I wanted to be like. I wanted to be smart and I wanted to be able to play basketball good. So Steve Urkel and Mr. Rogers were guys that I grew up looking up to. I kind of got to play the part of Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say I played the part of Steve Urkel. I'd say more Stefan.
Stefan, okay. I was going to say Stefan.
But those are some characters I grew up.
Can you sing the theme song to Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, I can sing it, but I'm not. Would you be
mine? Would you be mine?
Would you be my neighbor?
There you go, boy. So fast forward to high school now. You're what's the wildest gym atmosphere that you've been in, like when you played in high school?
It was two atmospheres. UConn, we were 6A. We had a game versus our arch rivals of Mustang. And that game, it was a home game too. Sophomore year, I'm finally getting some minutes on the court like I should have been getting, and I was able to hit the game-winning shot that game. So that was one of the defining moments that gave me a lot of confidence. And then transferring from UConn to the inner city, a lot of people say you can't play in that inner city conference. And just the atmosphere. I mean, how many games do we need to talk about? Do we need to talk about Douglas? Do we need to talk about Star Spencer? Do we need to talk about Northeast?
Yeah.
I mean, we even had, like class in SAS had David Guybold. Northwest Classen had Darnell Jackson. Douglas had Detroit, Richard Jones. Southeast had, James Coates. They had so many great players. People don't realize that our senior that we wanted, the only loss that Southeast had all year was to us in the semifinals. They were picked to win it, and we were able to bring that out. So that inner city, that inter-conference atmosphere was amazing. I remember my dad used to have to come straight from work, and the fire marshals there, they shutting down the building. There's nobody else can get in.
Right.
My dad's like, look, if I don't get in, JR's not playing. He's like, it's just point blank. He's like, you going to let me off in here, but I like that. The Bears den, the court was up. It was up top. It was close. It was uncomfortable. So that atmosphere, and my best friend that's here with me now, he was the mascot off in that atmosphere.
Okay.
It was crazy, man. Like this dude was going through the stands, like replaying dunks. Like get a dunk, it looks like somebody shooting in the gym. People are rushing on the court. I mean, I really love that inner city atmosphere because in 6A they didn't kind of have that same love that the inner city had for basketball. So once I got here and was able to play, and that every night, I mean, it elevated my game, and I had great players around me as well. So it was, though I don't want to say it was the good old days, but that was a big part of my basketball journey.
I know exactly what you're talking about because we talked about it earlier that you are from the original John Marshall. Yeah. And so you got the metal bars that go across the concrete, and so man, that gym was lit. Yeah, and you got everybody in the far the bleachers at the top.
Like Gallagher Iba.
Yeah, it's kind of tall and just go straight up. Yeah,
it's going up like Gallagher Iba, and we're just down.
Yeah,
locked in. So
did you have a nickname growing up?
I mean, I had a few nicknames. I think mostly people called me JR, Giddy, stuff like that.
Who was your high school coach? Was it?
My high school coach, I had two. I had Wes Clark. I think he played at, I want to say UCO. I think UCO, OCU legend. Maybe he got a national championship. But then the guy that we won the championship with was John Martin. And he was a first year head coach. And we were able to get a state championship. I think he's like the president of like the NAIA basketball out here. Like he's got a high position up with that. But those were my two high school coaches out here.
Okay. So he's probably I forgot when Coach Griffin left. But it probably wasn't
Coach
right
Griffin left and then I came in.
Okay.
So the year that he left and went to, coach his sons,
right.
That's when I came to John Marshall. Because if he wouldn't have left, things might have been a little different. Coach Griffin had his structure set up already.
You would have loved him. You would have loved him.
Possibly.
Yeah. Did you have any pregame rituals that were like out of the ordinary, or did you have any rituals before you started playing?
No, I didn't, but sometimes the way that I tied my shoes or I'd scarf my socks, like if I felt like I played a good game before, then I was definitely going to play in those same pair of shoes again and try to tie them the same way and stuff like that. But for me, my pregame was really just kind of get my mind right with some music and, get into my zone, trying to get into kill mode. Now, when I play, that Halloween song with Michael Myers that Kobe used to listen to, that when it's a championship game or like a big time game, then I'm gonna listen to that on repeat and just try to get my mind off into like I love the way the late great Kobe Bryant says it. Basketball for me came from a dark place. It's just how you harness it, and so I like how he got his mind kind of like off into like a little psychotic zone, to go out there and play. Because for me, I'm a physical power three, so I like to get my mind off in that zone to just go out there and play angry.
That killer mentality.
Killer be killed, and it's not gonna be me.
Right.
I promise you. So
it's not gonna be me.
Not gonna be me.
Okay. What's one thing that any of your coaches told you that has stuck with you to this day? Any quotes or?
Well, they told me I had the ability to either light a house up or burn it down. It was just the way that I used my abilities, and so I kind of took it at sometimes you gotta go out there and when I was younger, I was more of a physical leader, like with my actions. I wasn't as verbal. Now I know how to talk at age 40 finally. That was one thing that stuck with me, and they would say, we go as you go. Okay. I'd say that's probably the big thing that I've been on most of my sports teams. You know, more coaches have told me, like, we go as you go. So since 6 years old, 7 years old, whether it was basketball, football, or baseball, I know I had a big responsibility in order for my team to be successful. And I've always kind of carried that with me my entire life.
All right, so I'm gonna get into a little lightning round. Like I'm gonna fire off some characteristics. And how well do you remember your high school team? Like your teammates?
We'll see how this goes. We'll see.
Okay. So who would be the comedian?
Oh, the comedian, that D'Angelo Brown.
D'Angelo Brown?
D'Lo Brown, for sure.
Okay.
He's the loudest and he's the most talkative.
I know him now. Yeah.
Still to this day.
To
this day.
Who's the best dressed? Who was the best dressed?
Probably, I don't know. Probably Danny Howard. I'd have to go with Danny Howard or Adam Liberty. You know, these guys like to wear Jordans. I really wasn't too into J's back then, but those two, they always stayed pretty fresh.
Who was the locker room DJ?
The locker room, you know what? We didn't have any music in the locker room. Everybody did their own thing.
Okay.
Everybody did their own thing.
Who was the strongest?
I don't know who the strongest was. It was probably Adam or Danny. Danny played football. You know, those football players, they live different. Y'all live different from us. Y'all live different from us. But he was I got out of high school real skinny. I didn't get my body until like my third year of college. Okay. But you know, Adam was pretty built when we were in high school, more than me anyway. Chest wise, bench press wise. Okay. That's what you're considering the strongest, right? Bench press. It's probably Adam or Danny.
How tall were you when you?
I was 6'5" when I graduated. Okay. I was 6'4" as a sophomore though, and then only grew one more inch. So disappointing, but you know. You know how you hear these guys, they be like, man, I was a late bloomer, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, all these guys, and Anthony Davis. Nah, we thought I was 6'4" as a sophomore. And
you thought you were going to get a little taller.
Man, I thought I was going to be at least 6'7", 6'8", you know, but you know, 6'5" it is.
Yeah. Which one of your teammates would you take in a street ball fight in a game of 21?
Oh, I'm taking Adam all day. That's my partner in crime, my PIC. You know, that guy, man, I mean, he was kind of Kyrie Irving before Kyrie Irving. You know, I could jump and shoot jumpers and dunk, but his handle was crazy. Nobody could stay in front of him. So I felt like, you know, that's one of the reasons I transferred to John Marshall was to play with him. But, man, we were a dynamic duo. I don't think nobody had a better dynamic duo than us in the state. Like, for sure, no.
Yeah, both of y'all was cold, man. Who was the ball hog?
I mean, I'd probably say I got a more shots than anybody, so I have to say guilty. I'm guilty. I might not have dribbled it to most, but I got up to most shots for sure. I was getting my chucks up. I remember one game, my senior year, I think I shot like 11 threes, and I didn't shoot the best percentage that game. And, just know I was getting them up.
Okay. What? Who talked the most trash?
I definitely talked the most trash.
Did you?
Yeah, easily. Still to this day. Man, that was my thing. You know, growing up, I'll say this, growing up at UConn and that atmosphere, you know, on the weekends, we would finally get a chance to play some of our schoolmates. And my team would win. And then, you know, we get to school and they'd be like, oh, we weren't even playing hard and this and that. We didn't take it serious. So I learned at a young age, I want to talk stuff to you. I want to talk some junk because now I really want the best of you. Because now you're going to give me the best version of you and I'm going to talk stuff to you. We're going to play your team and you're going to have a little extra motivation because I want you to give me not 100%. I want you to give me 110, 120%. So when I get the best of you, I don't want to hear no excuses. We just know who the better man is.
Absolutely, man. That's that dog, that killer be killed.
To this day, look, man. I'm over here
I'm
still trying to catch people at some gyms around here. Like, hey, remember you was talking all that stuff?
Right.
Well, yeah, I got you. Look, I'm still 40. We can get it now. What's happening?
Get it now. Yeah.
Talk to me nice.
Who would be the one teammate you would take on a reality show with you?
Oh, on a reality show. I'd probably take Danny Howard. You know, he was a guy that was always smiling, nice personality. You know, he knew how to talk. He was smooth with the ladies. He knew how to dress. That would be the guy that if we were trying to go on there and just get some more fame and pick up on pretty girls, that would be the guy that I would take with me.
DJ. Yeah, okay. Who would be your babysitter? Like which teammate would you trust to babysit your kids?
Oh man, shoot, none of them. I trust myself. Like I ain't leaving my kid with none of them. I'm trusting myself. I'm leaving him with me. None of them.
Yeah. Who was the most competitive?
The most competitive, me and Adam for sure.
Yeah,
we were definitely the most competitive on the team. But you know what? I'll say this, D'Angelo. I'll say this. D'Angelo Brown gave he got everything that he could get out of his body with his effort. Like, you know, like I don't think he shortchanged himself at all. Like that dude he was probably, besides Adam, and then, you know, Danny was gone our senior year, and D'Lo was there. He was one of our most vocal leaders, you know what I'm saying? Like he was, you know, he's from the city, you know, went here, and I mean, just the pride that he had, like I'll say this about D'Angelo Brown, whether he was having his best game or a good game or a bad game, his effort was always to the max. His energy was always to the max, but it was always for his teammates, man. Even still to this day, when he talks to me and we have any conversation on the phone, I'm ready to go out there and hoop. Like he still encourages me, shows me love. Like, man, JR, I'm so proud of you. This and this. Like he was like that back in the day. Like, go kill these guys. He can't hold you. And I'm like, you know what? He can't hold me. You are right. Like, I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah.
But he was probably our best teammate out of everybody. I give that to D'Angelo Brown for sure. He was the glue guy. He was John Marshall Bear Pride for sure.
So during your senior year, this is 2003, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you got All-State, you know, with a parade All-American, the McDonald's All-American, and what was the other one you named?
Michael Jordan Capital Classic.
Okay.
That's the Nike circuit. They got Mickey D's and they have the Adidas, and then they have Nike. I was a Nike guy, so Nike, we obviously, played in the Jordan.
And like I said before, at one point you were ranked as one of the top 20 players in the country. What went through your mind as those awards were coming in and you getting all these, like, man, did you know it was going to happen? Were you shooting for these?
No clue. I'll say this, you know, from the humble streets of, you know, Oklahoma City, because I never lived in UConn. I went to UConn schools. I remember what I would do. I had a few people in my life that pushed me to be where I was at. I had a cousin. His name is Rico Lang, and he was like, hey, if I don't make the NBA, I'm going to make sure you make the NBA.
Okay.
And I stayed in a nice neighborhood, you know, not too nice, but, you know, not a lot of violence and stuff like that. So I had a nice basketball court. I mean, that dude would bring everybody from the city to play me at any given time, 2 in the morning, 12, 11. Like
really?
he would knock on my window. My neighbors were understanding. They knew that I played basketball all hours of the night, and it was just some of the best battles that I've ever had. I'm going to give this guy a shutout now, Desmond Plunkett, Douglas, left-handed guy. So I'm visiting my family in the city, and, you know, I like to talk stuff. So what I would do is I would go to neighborhoods, or if I wasn't with my friends, we would drive around the neighborhoods and try to play the best people. So what I would do, I would go to the neighborhood and I would beat everybody and I would talk stuff, so they would go get the best player. So it'd always be, I see them pulling up from afar. It's like a crowd of 7 to like 15 kids. You know, there's one kid in there that's like bigger than everybody. The one that, you know, he's walking up to this heavyweight fight. And I remember I had some of my best backyard battles.
Yeah.
And so I'm playing versus Desmond. Now, this is a street ball court, so the goal's not 10 feet. Yeah. It's not my home court. I'm not too familiar with the court. I remember the first play of the game. I don't know if he remembers this. I hope he sees this. I hope he's still here. He drops the ball. He pushes me with 2 hands, right? I go back. He grabs the ball, like takes a step, kind of maybe like a travel, but it's street ball. And he's left-handed, which I had no idea he was left-handed. And he's skinny kid. He cocks this ball so far back and goes to dunk on me. Thank God he missed. But the ball went in and out. And it went so high up in the air. And I remember at that point, I'm like, yo, this might be one of the greatest dudes that I've ever faced. Like, hey, my mindset clicked in like, hey, this dude's a killer. Like, I got to get ready, but that's what I was there for. That's what I asked for. You know, I'm like, go get your big brother. Go get your cousin. I'll beat him too. I'll beat your uncle. I'm talking all the stuff. I want all the smoke. So, I mean, I remember those matchups in parks all over Oklahoma City and Oklahoma, playing versus some kid that I don't know at the time, but is the best of the best from where they from. And then we all saw each other later on when we got older in high school, and some of those guys became my best friends, and it was just, you know, or good friends. And I always, when I see everybody, when, you know, we're out, you know, getting meals in Oklahoma, and I see one of those guys, I always make sure I take time out of my day to thank them for being a part of my basketball journey, because it might be something that they think is so minor, but it's not. To me, I'll never forget those days, and that's what molded me and shaped me. So being long-winded, working out, out there in Oklahoma and in my court, I remember I would be making a lot of shots and I'd be playing good. Now I'm being able to dunk and do all these crazy dunks. I'm like, I know I got to be one of the best kids in America because nobody from where I'm from can beat me.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, obviously, you All-American. So after you got all your awards and stuff, like at Parade All-American, McDonald's All-American, all that stuff. When did recruiting start for you? Was it before all of that?
It started because I committed to Kansas my junior year. Being a kid that came off the bench at UConn High School my sophomore year, and then 365 days later committing to Kansas and Roy Williams, who just came off of a Final Four. I had to grab that because they only offer they might offer you a scholarship to like 7-8 kids, but they only got like 3 spots at that position. Okay. So I jumped on it early. Plus, I loved Kansas, but for me, all of those accolades started coming after that. But I remember this: we didn't have social media, and so my dad opens up the front door. And I could hear him like scream and yell. And so I knew they told me the last cut was going to come out for the McDonald's All-American. So when he yelled from my bedroom at that moment, I was like, you know what? I think I'm as good as I think I am now that I've made the Mickey D's. And, after that, things changed, man. I had a little pep in my step walking around that John Marshall, around those John Marshall halls. I had a lot more pep in my step, man. A
little more bread pride.
Yeah, to say the least, That day, I went to school, and obviously, and I say this on camera, everybody didn't like that. I was expecting to be celebrated. It wasn't no celebration. It was more of like, they're going to kill you at this game, like you're not ready. And I like that. So I remember I went in the gym, I put the ball down at the 3-point line. I'm like, whoever wants it can get it that day. I ran through like 6 or 7, 8, whoever guys that played me today, they're like ripping up the papers, instead of celebrating me like being Mickey D's, they ripping it up. But, I like that. I embrace the hate. Now, I don't mind being the villain. That's kind of been my personality. I'll be the bad guy. I'll be the villain. But that day was bittersweet because they tried to knock me off my heel that day and try to play me one-on-one. And I got down to D'Angelo Brown. But I had ran through like 5 or 6 guys at this point. I'm tired. We're going to 15 ones and twos. D-Lo has me down it's like 12 to like 2. I'm tired.
Oh, dang.
I'm letting them shoot these in jumpers. I had to give the greatest performance of my life to come back from down. And when I won, I made sure I let everybody hear. But I thank John Marshall for that. I thank UConn for that. They gave me that fire, that passion. But those times. They dogs are made out here.
So was Kansas your only offer? I mean, did you get anybody else try to contact you?
No, my first offer was actually I just ran off in to his son, Eddie Sutton's son. I was just at Oklahoma State this weekend watching some kids play, and I told him, I was like, your dad was the first one to offer me a scholarship. So my first scholarship offer was to Oklahoma State. Yeah. And this is what I always tell. I like to tell this story to kids. That night, my coach, Al Johnson, everybody knows Al Johnson. He's got a lot of guys to the NBA and to college. He shot my arms out. Like, I used to make 1,000 jump shots, after school. And I'm like, we got a game tomorrow. All the college coaches are going to be there. I can't even feel my arms. I'm crying. I'm complaining. I'm whining and stuff. And he's like, shut up, shoot the ball. And so that next day, some crazy stuff happened. We had gotten like a car wreck. So I show up I missed the first game. And I've left my shoes in our car that we just got a wreck in. So I had to play in somebody else's shoes with no socks. Oh, dude. No socks on. And I remember seeing Melvin Sanders, Melvin. Yeah. And I told him, I was like, look, I'm about to go for 40. Well, I lied to him because I went for 50 that game. I went 8 of 11. I remember I went 8 of 11 from the 3-point line. And I'm walking out afterwards down the hallway, and Eddie Sutton offers me my first scholarship. Man. My mom goes crazy. I don't even get a chance to enjoy the moment. She's like, oh, my God, this is scholarship. I'm like, dang, I enjoyed it.
Like she got the scholarship.
Yeah, man. She was like, I think she was like, we don't have to pay for school.
Right,
like,
yeah. There you go. There you go.
And so, no, my first scholarship offer was to Oklahoma State, man. Okay. And I was just telling them that. I was like, I'm forever grateful for that because that meant a lot. And it was in front of, a couple AAU teams were walking out. And, I'm the guy, like, I'm going to be myself on the podcast. It was in front of a lot of haters. And so I really enjoyed that moment. They didn't as much as I did.
Of course not.
But no, I enjoyed that. Look, I think probably, I don't know how you felt off of your first scholarship offer, but that was a great ride home because it was a long time coming.
Yeah.
And we had put in that work, and I was exhausted. My feet was all funky because I've been playing without socks in the
No
game.
socks, yeah.
Like, I was funky as hell in that car ride home, but I felt amazing.
Yeah, yeah. None of that mattered.
None of
it
that mattered.
Yeah.
Like, my dad, look, he's happy. My mom's happy. You know, shoot.
Yeah, you know you got a place to go, no matter if that's your only option.
I might even got a chance to sip some beer there. They might have gave me a sip. Nah, that's right.
No, man. Yeah, I know that feeling, man. I know that feeling. I can't actually remember who my first offer was from.
I slept great that night.
Yeah.
I feel good. Look, I woke up with some pep in my step that
Yeah,
day. Too.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
So Roy Williams recruited you.
Yes.
What made you decide to go to Kansas?
I felt like he pulled me to the side and he told me, he was like, there's only one kid your age that's more athletic than you out here. He's like, I think that's a guy. He's like, he's a generational talent, LeBron James.
Oh, LeBron. Okay.
Yeah, he was telling me. Yeah, he was telling me. I'm like,
really?
I know who that is.
Yeah.
But no, I feel like Roy Williams, they put some effort into me. And when I went to Kansas, you know, they like, OU had came off of a Final Four that year, and they obviously offered me as well. But I just thought everything was
who was the coach then?
Kelvin Sampson.
Okay.
And I've been playing versus his son since we were in 5th grade. We're the exact same age, me and Kelvin. I remember I showed up to I'm in 5th grade. We showed up to play him. He's like, hey, his dad coaches for you better kick his ass in there. So I'm going to kick your ass. And I'm over here like, hey, I'm not trying to get my ass kicked today.
Right.
His kid's about to get it. But
yeah,
that was another stepping stone on my basketball journey that I will always remember. And
for things that motivated you.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, my dad did a great job of motivating me, for real. Like, I was telling him that the other day. I'm like, you know, you may be kind of crazy, right? This is your fault.
It's your fault, yeah.
He's like, small moment when you play basketball. I'm like, that's your fault.
Yeah.
I play angry because of you.
Yeah, you got to play angry, yeah. So when you get to Kansas, man, like you said, Roy is the coach. And how many, was he your coach for 1 year?
No, I signed to Roy Williams, but I played for Bill Self. Roy left to North Carolina.
Right, okay.
And when Bill came in, since he was an Oklahoma State guy, guy, I just, I stuck with it. I had a good in-home visit with him. He ate my mom's home cooking, which was good. I wish I could have some of that today, RIP moms. Yeah. But Coach Self is an amazing person, amazing coach, man. I got a chance to talk to him a few years ago. When I was coaching, we played in Lawrence. And me and him had a great conversation, man. And it was just like I was in college again. I really appreciate that guy. So when I got off into coaching, because I was a head coach in college for 3 years, the first thing I did is I called all my college coaches and apologized. I was like, man, I get it now. I'm sorry, man, I get it now. I understand. Like they are not listening to me.
Bad.
They don't understand. I'm just trying to help them. I bet they were like on the other end laughing their ass off. Everybody told your wife, they're like, guess who just called me and said sorry?
Right.
JR, they're like, oh my God. They're like, we're going to celebrate today.
Right. So who were some of the other players at Kansas? So you went to Kansas for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Do you remember any of those guys that went to the league when they graduated?
Oh, yeah, of course. Darnell Jackson, obviously, Oklahoma City native. He came in my sophomore year, but we played on the same AAU team. And then Wayne Simeon went to the league off that team.
Where did he go play?
Wayne Simeon went to Miami with the 29th pick. That's before they had 30 teams.
Okay.
Sasha Khan got drafted, Darnell Jackson. But then I was only there 2 years. So there was guys that came in after me because they obviously won the national championship. They had Mario Chalmers, Brandon Rush, you know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody from Kansas goes to the league. So when I went to
look,
you go to Kansas, you play well, you got a chance,
Which one? There was one coach, and I can't remember who it was, but it was one of those. It was like a Roy Williams. It was like a Chris, Mike, Coach K. Can't say his last name.
Yeah, we can't say that. I can't spell it either. Don't ask me.
I can't say Coach K. Yeah,
Coach K.
Yeah, they said, do you want to get an education, or do you want to go to the NBA? And that was like, because if you come here, you going to the NBA. So that's like you may come out in 1 or 2 years.
Right.
So if you're trying to get an education, you may want to go to
that's kind of from what I heard, that was John Calipari's. He's like, you know what, like I got Derrick Rose, like I'm gonna put this guy in some classes, to where he's not out here having to break his, break his mind over here to try to stay eligible and stuff. And I think these guys are like basket weaving, whatever.
Right.
So, but he was like, sometimes it's, how am I going to recruit a kid? Like I know they're going to be one and done, maybe 2 years max. He's like, so, I try to come off in there, make these guys comfortable, try to prepare their minds for the next level. So, I mean, It took me 5 years to get there. I took the senior route, but I got there. But I figured I'd have a chance. I really should have left after my freshman year, but when you're young and you're inexperienced, you don't know any better. So I should have left when it was hot, but I had to have surgery on my foot again because in the McDonald's All-American game, my foot was broken. So I had to have surgery after the Jordan Capital Classic. So after my freshman year, I had to have surgery on my foot again and my knee. So so that year I averaged 15.8 in the tournament as a freshman, and we went to the Elite Eight. That's you got to come out.
Okay,
The guy that got Big 12 Freshman of the Year over me, Curtis Stinson, like I was 18 as a freshman, he was 21. So I made the All Big 12 Freshman team, but the guy that got Freshman of the Year over me was 21 years old. Like
you had I know you had a small incident with the. Was a bar fight or something?
You know what? I wouldn't call it. I wouldn't call it a bar fight. It was a guy that he attacked me multiple times, and then he was removed from the bar.
Yeah.
And then I had left the bar, and I was coming back, and we ended up crossing paths at the front door, and all I did was defend myself.
Yeah.
But ended up almost losing my life and my leg and my athletic career, and that was a turning point in my life. I needed a fresh start. That's why I transferred to New Mexico, but definitely had to come home and dig deep. I had to learn how to walk all over again. They told me I'd never play ball again, and I'd walk with a limp for the rest of my life and wouldn't be able to play basketball. So that was a very defining moment in my life. I had to dig deep. I'd say it's probably the most difficult thing I've ever been through because when he had hit my artery, so I'm bleeding to death.
And this is in your calf, or
this is my calf because he was on the ground.
Yeah, of course.
Right, he was down there. But so the crazy thing is that he hit my artery, so I'm bleeding to death.
Okay.
He severed my Achilles and my soleus, so you don't know how muscle's gonna heal back. Like if you look at my leg to this day, it's disformed. And so I remember sitting on the couch trying to have my leg up, and my muscles are trying to go. You can't sew a muscle back together.
Yeah,
so
it's hard. Yeah,
they're spazzing up. I remember I'd have a cramp for like an hour and a half straight, just like nothing we could do about it. I mean, it was tough, man. I didn't know if I was going to be able to play ball again. And at 20 years old, and I like to share this stuff because on podcasts, I learned so much from podcasts, and I feel like they helped me. So I remember I told my dad at 20, I just started crying. I'm like, shoot, at that point, all I knew how to do was play basketball. I'm like, what am I going to do now?
Man.
So it was tough, but I was able to heal from that and get a second chance at New Mexico and make the best out of that. But what doesn't break you will make you, and I just. You gotta to be an athlete. Like I tell these kids, you gotta be mentally tough. I believe that God healed me and myself. I just had to believe that it wasn't over with because they said it was. And I'm still playing to this day, and I'm still running, jumping, and dunking. So God is good, man.
Well, that's good. That's good, man. So how long were you out between Kansas and New Mexico? How long? What was that time span?
At that time was before the transfer portal, and unfortunately the NIL.
Yeah.
So I had to sit out a season, and I really needed that season to sit out.
Yeah.
And just I changed my body. I went from about 185 to like 216 naturally. Just hard work and protein shakes, and just really focusing on the weight room and changing my game. And one thing I tell people is like when you transfer, you get a chance to reinvent yourself, and that's what I did. I got bigger, faster, stronger, meaner, smarter, and so I got a chance to go to New Mexico and get a second chance at following my dreams, and it ended up paying off for me.
How did New Mexico come about? Like where did that connection come from?
Well, so I can say it now on the podcast. But, when Wayne Simeon got Big 12 Freshman of the Year. I mean, Big 12 Player of the Year, excuse me.
Yeah.
And he went 29th in the draft.
Okay.
And Danny Granger went 17th in the draft and out of New Mexico. Okay. So at that point, I was like, all right, I need to be smarter. I need to go somewhere where I can develop, where they're going to take care of me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And just let my game develop. And, being the first McDonald's All-American out there and, them putting the ball in my hands and Richie McKay, that coach, because I played for two coaches out there.
Okay.
He was going to put the ball in my hands, but he was more worried about me as a person, and that really attracted me to New Mexico.
Okay.
And knowing that Danny got drafted out of there at 17th.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I knew I had to possibly be Player of the Year.
Do you have any memorable games that you remember off the top of your head?
Yeah, I have two games. One game we were on, we played UTEP. University of Texas El Paso on the road. They had the number one scorer in the country at that point, Stephen Jackson. And that game, I was able to have 20 points, 19 rebounds. I really felt like I had 20 rebounds. Yeah. You know how on the road they be missing rebounds, assists. You might have an extra turnover, but I remember that game. And then my senior night, my dad was only able to make one game my senior year, and I was able to have a monster double-double, and we got a big-time win. And he was there, and my AAU coach and high school coach got a chance to make that game. So being able to perform like that in front of those guys versus one of the better teams in the conference, Lon Kruger of UNLV, I really liked that game. It was so real going off into that game because I'm gonna be honest with you, I was very emotional driving to that game.
Okay.
And because at that point, I knew everything that I had worked for. This was my last game of my senior year. I knew I had a chance to be player of the year of the conference. I led the conference in scoring and rebounding, so it was just kind of so real. It was like, all right, this is the last official college game for me. We came and did everything that we needed to do. Now after that, it's up to the basketball guys where the chips fall. Right.
So during that time, where like you having those monster games, did you realize you were going to be playing in the NBA? Were people talking about it, or did you think you were good enough to play?
I knew I was good enough to play there. Yeah. And in fact, even some of the guys that they picked above me, I feel like I crushed them in some of the workouts. But like I tell kids, we got to be careful with some of the decisions that we make. Some stuff that I did at Kansas and in high school, it's going to be able to maybe be a red flag to some teams and stuff like that. So I always tell kids, you got to watch how you are off the court. It's a business, So, but at that point, I knew that I had done enough, and I was one of the best players in the country. Like, people don't realize this, that I actually led the entire NCAA in rebounding for guards. And then I led my conference in scoring and rebounding. Okay. So at that point, I'm like, most of the people that have got player of the year out of the Mountain West Conference, they're going. Even though the guy that I got co-player of the year with, he didn't get drafted. But the funny thing is, everybody off his team did. Another reason I think I got drafted, Danny Ainge's son from the general manager of the Celtics, he had played for BYU. They were in our conference, so I think that he kind of got an up-close chance to see me over the years. That window of opportunity is this big. All this work that you've been putting in is what's gonna, in that moment when that one, all you need is one yes. All you need is one coach. Ray Lewis, he got on the last game of high school, he got one scholarship offer to the University of Miami, and they were there to see another guy, and he played his best. And after the game, his coach told him, he got that offer, and this dude's got a gold jacket, a Hall of Famer. All it takes is one person to believe. But you got to be ready for when that moment comes.
Yeah. When you finished at New Mexico, did you have an agent working for you? Or was it kind of
Danny Granger's agent? We already,
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of already knew. Once I was transitioning over there, that was kind of like the plan, to try to follow in Danny's footsteps. And a guy named Aaron Mance. So I actually moved to California, got a condo. They were giving me some money. I'm pretty sure I was gonna have to pay back. I think I paid all of that back. Matter of fact, but no, I trained for that, and my draft process was crazy because I kind of had a couple little injuries or tweaks, and wasn't able to be my best at the combine, and had to really kind of sneak off in some workouts to give versus some players that they thought were better than me, and I got a chance to kill these guys in front of 21 NBA teams. They had some. Like, I think Golden State's what got me back on the map. There was 21 NBA teams there, and I played really good at that workout. So you've seen that one movie to where it's with Adam Sandler and that guy from overseas, and he's a scout, and he's trying to get him drafted. I forgot the name of it.
I forgot the name of it. I know
but it's when I watched that, I've never ever been able to fully watch it through because it brings back moments from my draft process, and I'm like emotional, ready to cry. I gotta turn it off because it's just PTSD. It's just bringing back memories, man. Like, I didn't go to the draft. I got my draft suit made. I got my little platinum suit to match my personality, and then. I just watched it in New Mexico with my closest, friends and family because, I didn't know where I was going to go. But so here's a crazy story. Memphis guaranteed they were going to take me at 28.
Okay.
And New Jersey was like, if you don't work out for any teams in the first round, we'll pick you in the second round and give you first round money.
Okay.
And at that point, you know, my ego is big. I'm like, I should be a first rounder, you know?
Yeah.
And so the real
So
offer.
did they want you to say no to other teams?
They didn't even want me to work
you...
out for teams in the first round. And
Okay.
they said that they were going to give me first round money in the second round. I may have should have took that 5-year deal, you know. But, you know, you live and you learn. And so the real author of Kansas, he had some liver problem to where he didn't pass his physical. So now you got a guy that was going to go lottery. Yeah. Now the 28th pick comes up. My agent calls me, and he's like, they're not going to take you. So I got a whole room of people watching me, you know, to come to my party. Now, you know, in this party, there's some haters there. They didn't came to see your boy fall.
Ready to see you fall.
I'm nervous as hell. So he calls me. So now I told him, I'm like, man, I could possibly go 21. I know they had a pick from my position. They took somebody else, Courtney Lee. And then so I told him, I'm like, hey, I could go 21, 28, 29, you know. So they don't take me at 21. I got to stand up and tell them, like, hey, they're not going to take me at 21, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Then it comes to 28, and then I was like, I think I'm going to 28, this and this and this. So now I got to stand up, and I'm all sad. I got to tell the room again, like, hey, I'm not going to go at 28, but let's think about 29. 29 comes around, I get this call again. He's like, yeah, I'm like, I got to stand up, and everybody, I could see everybody's faces. So I squeezed my AAU coach's hand. What's going on? Like, I'm trying not to flip out because everybody's there, but I'm going psycho in my mind, you know? So the 30th pick comes around. I don't even know that Boston likes me. My agent calls me. He's like, I don't know what's going to go on, this and that. And he was playing a joke on me because they said they were going to pick me, but I didn't know that. So they called my name. Crazy moment. I had on 2 earrings. My teammates tackle me, all my family. I lose an earring. My phone freezes. I got a chance to see a couple haters' faces. Like, like they're like, oh, you really got drafted?
Yeah, first round.
It was first round at that.
Yeah.
Nah, it was an amazing day. Unfortunately, my dad wasn't able to watch the draft with me or my mom. My mom was on hospice here.
Okay.
But the crazy thing about that is my mom's in the ICU. She's in a coma at that time. Our eyes are like taped shut. And so my dad starts screaming when they announce my name, but he's in ICU. You can't do that.
Yeah, no.
So they kick him out of ICU. He's like, my son just got drafted. They're like, we don't care.
Right.
You got to get up out of here. You can't do that. Like, he's literally screaming, you know?
People up in
and so I think he was out there in Eufaula because she was out there, and he was like, you know, that was one of the best car rides he had home. And that night for me was amazing, too. I had them, you know, at the little local spot down there, I had them, you know, put a little red carpet for your boy, play Kanye's Good Life when I was walking in. But it was cool because it was a lot, like I said, man, there was a lot of haters that were there that night. You know, there's a difference. You know, when you're in college and you got a chance to go and get drafted, you know, some people are just there in college. Yeah. Just to, you know, because I was wearing my shades out that night, just to see the looks on all my haters' faces that night. Priceless.
Yeah. But when you get drafted, after you got drafted, now, did you have to spend some time in the G League, and how did that transition
go for you?
Well,
this is how it went, because I went to the world champion Boston Celtics. They just won a championship, and so at that time it was called the D League, Developmental League. So they would send us down for like a month, but you would still get your regular paycheck, and whenever you traveled, you know, you get your first travel accommodations, you get your per diem when you're on the road, and I actually think that is good for young guys to go down there, because for me, honestly, I needed it just because it was hard to get some playing time in practice. You got Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, you Tony Allen, Brian Scalabrine. It's like, I try to tell these guys, it's like, just because you on the team, like, you trying to sub in practice, it's not like you got a coach, you know, like like if you're like a higher pick, then obviously you're gonna be out there. But when you're a lower pick, I mean, they don't need me, you know. So I mean, I'm like, hey man, can I sub in? They're like, hey man, get off. They like kicking me off. I'm over here fighting for every second in practice. So it was good to get some minutes in the G League, to, you know, to get some 5-on-5, you know, because you need that. Because I try to tell people, when you come off of a ball screen and you see Dwight Howard, or, you know, you got Kobe Bryant in your stuff, and you ain't got no 5-on-5 action, because you get called up from, you know, like, sometimes, you know, at that, when you're a young guy, you don't know when you're going to go in. Yeah. And I'll give you one of my craziest stories, man. So, but nah, this game, I didn't even know if I was going to get in. And we're playing LeBron James, like Cleveland Cavaliers LeBron. So this dude is freakishly athletic. Well, that's my job. I guard LeBron, Kobe, KD when I get in for my little minutes, you know. So he's like, JR, get in. So I check in, you know, I got to guard LeBron. Mind you, he's already got like,
He's got like 27, 28 first half, full sweat, beads of sweat now. I was just to my little warm-ups. Now, you know them NBA arenas be cold. Now, if you've been sitting there the whole first half, I ain't went in cold. 1 second. Yeah. But it's about 2 minutes, 43 seconds left on his clock. So, of course, he's going to sub Paul or Ray out and let me go in and get some minutes and let them rest before halftime, right? Yeah. So I get off in this game now. I didn't came out my hoodie, right? My little warm-ups, right? Ooh, it's cold off and I've been sweating. Look, I'm on an island. They didn't call the whole play. So LeBron catches it right now. He sees me on him. He knows I've just came in. Yeah. He's just ISO. He's just like, he's just like, you know what, move out the way. And I'm like, all right, now I'm on an island with this dude. He's got beads of sweat over here. I'm cold. Like I didn't just came on my warm-ups. So I know he's right hand dominant. I try to sit on his right hand. He doesn't dunk me or anything, but you know, I foul him. He gets the layup. Man, we went in at halftime. Boy, Doc Rivers yelled at me crazy. He's like, "You not ready?" This and that. I'm like, man, what? I'm like, this man already got 28, 27. Yeah. I didn't even get an up and down and back or nothing. I came straight from sitting down to this, and this man yelled at me. Like, I'm like, man, what did you want me to do? And that's why, you know, I'm just like, all right. But that's one of my crazy stories. I'm like, dang, Doc, look, dang, Doc Rivers, why you mad at me, man?
Come on, Doc.
Hey, he done already got 28, 29.
Yeah, on somebody else.
On somebody else. Look, I've never been scared. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never been scared playing basketball. But in that moment, I was like, damn. Man. I was like, damn. I was not confident. You know, I didn't even, like, I had literally was just sitting down. I didn't have no heat packs on, no nothing. Yeah, and just went in, and now I got to guard the best player in the world.
Right.
With no warm-up?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I was... Look,
crazy.
I was scared.
What city do you remember had the best fans? Like when y'all went to go play in different places?
Oh man, you know what? When you play in LA and New York, that's when you're gonna see all the stars. That's when you see Jay-Z and Beyonce. Like you trying not to pay attention to Jay-Z and Beyonce. You be like, is that J-Lo, Jay-Z and Beyonce over there, courtside, New York, Miami? Yeah. You know those
Spike Lee?
Yeah, those stars is calling. He's at all the games. You know, those stars is definitely coming out. And what was crazy about that, those atmospheres, the Garden in LA is like, you know, at that time, you know, they were coming off of a world championship. So everybody has that date marked on their calendar. Yeah. So everybody's coming out. The stars are coming out. Like, you know, this team is going to give you the best punch. And, you know, I could really feel the atmosphere. Like, I really felt like, oh, we're really trying to repeat. Like, it's really serious. Like, every mistake. Like, they have a war board up there to where it's like they have all 82 games mapped out to what they think they can win, what they think they can't win. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, who they think they're going to play off in the playoffs. Like, every day it's war up there. So that atmosphere in the Garden, in L.A., Miami, you know, that's Dwayne Wade, Miami and stuff like that. Yeah. Atlanta was crazy at that time. That's when they had Josh Smith, what's his name, with the handles. I ain't gonna forget Crawford. Jamal Crawford was there. I mean, they had a squad. So around that time in 2008, 2009, the league was really on fire with a lot of good teams. So the markets were for that people were going to and teaming up at that time because that was after the big three. So you had superstars coming together like, hey, we need to team up to win. So if you go anywhere, I mean, D Rose, them, you know, he was the number one pick of that draft. Like Chicago was crazy. I mean, watching him and Rondo go, it was like watching two mutants try to kill each other. Like it was, they're flying. Like
I can imagine, man.
Yeah, crazy.
Who was during your time with the pros? Who was the one guy that kept you grounded? Or did you have anybody?
Ray Allen and Tony Allen. Ray did his best as a superstar to try to help me, you know, and try to keep my mindset along. Because when, you know, you're not getting the most playing time, sometimes it's hard to stay positive. And that's why I like listening to people's podcasts, because I see other people going through the same stuff I'm going through and the same emotions and feelings. So that's why I want to be really raw today and just share something that I know is going to help somebody. If I can say something today that's going to help somebody in life or in their journey, then that's what I'm here for. And then Tony Allen, I think for Tony Allen to be a Oklahoma State guy. A street guy, and a guy that learned how to survive in the league, you know, like he was showing me how to move, you know, with the playing time that he was getting in the role that he was taking. You know, it's so funny because he was hurt one time, and he was like, man, I don't know what's wrong with my foot. Like I'll come back when I feel good. Like, they're like, you should be back. And he's like, nah, it's not ready yet. Paul gets hurt, whatever. It's time for me in the rotation to get some playing time. Like, people had to drop. These dudes is dropping like flies. He's down, he's down. I'm like, this is my time. I know I'm in the rotation. Soon as I said that, Tony Allen came back that day. He was like, I'm playing today. I'm like, man, God dang. I'm like, he's from Chicago, so he always says Joe. He's like, yeah, Joe, I'm playing today. I'm like, he's smart. He knows if he gives a young guy opportunity, you never know what can go with that, So I saw that stuff, those, I'm not saying that he did that. Obviously, he did that purposely, and I'm not mad at him for it, but, that was a chance for me to try to crack the lineup and be in a rotation, hit some shots, make some plays, because for me, I'm more athletic than him, He's a better defensive player. Obviously, that was the role that he played, but when he came back, it took me till, how like when you're younger and then you start realizing things later when you have the mental aptitude to understand the situation years down the line. I'm seeing all of these things. I'm like, eureka moment. I'm like, that was smart that he came back, because if he didn't come back and I got a chance to get out there and get jiggy, who knows what would have happened. But
I had a spot back.
Yeah, he played. Look, well played.
Yeah.
Well played, my brother. Well played.
Well played. So you went from Boston
to New York.
And then
New York to Poland.
Okay.
Poland to Spain.
Playing overseas.
To Greece, to Italy. Then after that,
saw the world,
now I'm just pinging all over Europe, and then I went from Europe to Latin America.
Okay.
And then I had a child in the Dominican Republic, so then I really wanted to play in that country, to be around my son, try to raise my son and spend some time with him. And so, I bounced around South America, and then I retired from 35 to 38 to be a head college coach in Northern New Mexico College women's side, and then head coach for the women's, assistant coach for the men's side, did player development, strength and conditioning for both teams. And then I got an opportunity to come out of retirement at 38 and go play in China again as a player coach. So this time I would be the head coach on the team, and then I'll be playing. So even that dynamic now, about the last 2 years now, I got about 45, 50 pro games under my belt, coaching at a pro level. Okay. And their CBA is our NBA. So I got a chance to play versus that level, coach at that level. Yeah. And then, that's why I think people got to respect Bill Russell's championships regardless, because for the last 3 seasons, he was the head coach.
Yeah, I was going to ask how that was.
The first year they lost. The last 2 they won. And for me, being a player coach as well, it's so hard to do that, because I'm chasing a guy this way. Then I got somebody come up to me after play like, Coach, what do you want me to do on this play? And I'm like, man, I didn't see. I'm chasing a guy off over here.
Right.
And you got to make substitution patterns. And, sometimes you sub yourself in. Somebody's mad. And you be like, hey, man, sit down. I got 25 right now. You got 4. You need to go sit down. People get mad. Be like, Coach always subbing himself in the game. And
I would too.
Yeah, right. And then, I had a fast break, and somebody had fell, and then we went down and came back in the transition, and they forgot to wipe the wet spot up. They couldn't get to it. I went to catch, and I was about to take off and dunk it. I fell so hard, right?
I can imagine.
Like, I'm talking about knocked my whole mind senseless, my whole left side out. Like, I didn't know, like, I was playing it together. You know how you get buzzed? Yeah. And get your head wrong. You just trying to figure stuff out. Then they're like, Coach, what's the substitutions? What's going on? I'm over here like, y'all sit down for a second. Let me try to figure this out. I'm over here looking. I can't even see the clock. It's blurry. I don't know who has what points, what fouls. Yeah. So I have a respect for anybody that's been a player coach. So people that don't know basketball history should definitely throw some kudos up to Bill Russell, because he has 11 championships anyway, but the last 2 he was the head coach and playing. It's tough to do that.
Yeah, I was wondering how, did you have any assistants?
Oh yeah, I had some assistants that helped.
But were they players too? Or
no, they weren't players.
Okay.
But kind of like when I'm in the game, then they can make substitutions and do stuff, because we work together. But I mean, it was just, like I said, you really gotta be on point, because for me, the first offensive play and defensive play of the game for me are very crucial, right? I want you to execute exactly what I'm saying get done. So now you got somebody, we done messed up the first offensive play. We done messed up the first defensive play. So as a coach, I'm halfway running down the court, like screaming and coaching, like, hey, you got to be here. Next thing you know, a swing comes, you get an open jump shot, you miss it.
Right.
Now you're pissed off as a coach and a player.
Yeah.
Because you didn't dismiss the ball. You like, that dang, I didn't dismiss this wide. Look, I'm wide open. I didn't miss this. We messing up the plays.
Right.
And then, you get a player like, you be like, hey, man, you got to be over. He'd be like, I'm not over there. I'm like, bro, this is my play. That's where you're supposed to be. And then sometimes you got to calm them down and be like, hey, I'm not talking to you as as a player right now. I'm talking to you as a coach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, sit down, have some respect my substitution pattern, respect what I say during the game. You know, like, you really got to tell people, I'm like, hey, I'm not asking right now. I'm telling you, I'm not asking. When I say go do this, I'm not asking right now.
Right.
And then you gotta break down that dynamic. 'Cause, even I'm gonna tell you like this, I had to pull a couple guys to the side, and I'm like, look, as your coach, I'm telling you right now, if you act like this on somebody else's team, you would be cut and be off.
You're still doing it now in China, still, or
you know what? Honestly, I came home to do the Big 3 combine and to visit my family after that. And I'm supposed to go back. I still got my motorcycles out there, my crib, and I only packed a small bag to come here just to try out, you know, for the Big 3. And
where was that at?
It was in Las Vegas. It was a combine. You know, I think I'm gonna try again next year. I understand how the combine works a lot more now and kind of what they're looking for, but. I just decided probably like a week ago, I'm not going to go back to China. I'm going to transition back off into coaching here or maybe going to play somewhere else besides China. I did 2 years there. I'm good on China. I think I want to transition into coaching full time. You know, I'm 40, man. I can still run and jump and do all that, but people don't realize, like, when you're playing 5-on-5 games and you're playing multiple games back-to-backs and stuff, those ice baths and stretching and foam rolling and taking ibuprofen, you can only do so much to get yourself up for the game. Yeah. I wanna transition into coaching full-time.
Just let me get your thoughts on NIL and transfer portal.
In my opinion, I think they kind of need to change the structure up. I'm happy that these players are getting paid. Matter of fact, I read something. They said they were going to give people back pay.
Man,
they give them reparations. I'm like,
I've been waiting.
I had to write my eyes when I saw the phone. I'm like, hold on, reparations for NIL. Wait, that's me.
Yeah.
Look,
I don't think it goes back as far as me though. But I think y'all may be getting something.
Hopefully, look, give me something, Jesus, please, Jesus. Some of these players are young and immature, man. You can't be giving some of these kids that much money. So the ones that are going there and taking the money and then transferring and they're not playing or doing something, I think sometimes if these guys are going to do NILs, if I was a coach, I would want them to like, hey, commit to me for 2 years and I'll give you this 2-year deal. If not, then I'll give you this 1-year deal of this money. So if you play 2 years, then you'll get more. If you play 1 year, then you'll get this because you see some of those kids are trying to have them pay the money back because they'll go there, sit out a year, not play, and they can take all this money and they're like, all right, we're going to go to another school and get more money. So I think they need to start having, some contracts with these guys, at least, 2-year minimum. So you get people stopping from going from 5 to 6 schools. They don't like something, they go to the next school. Then they don't like something, they go to the next school. So it's like, I think 2 years should be kind of like hey, if you're going to come here, at least give me a 2-year minimum. For those guys that were great college players that didn't get a chance to go pro, it's like, hey, man, they've made this university millions. Millions of dollars.
Yeah, man.
Now they don't get to have a pro career, or they get to start their pro career maybe not in the NBA or overseas, and not be able to make as much money. That's a way to give somebody some financial security into that transition, because it's a transition. You're either going to play or you're going to go into the work field. You see what I'm saying? So for those guys, think about it. It's like, hey, I did 4 years of college. I made $1.7 million. I want to do this. I want to invest. I want to start my own business. I want to have a restaurant. Now these guys have that ability, and they've earned that. So you got some guys that were, it's tough to get drafted, and these guys, and they were. It was subjective. They should have some guys should have got drafted and they shouldn't, but they were the best players in college basketball. Remember Zach Edey? He was player of the year back to back, and he had to go back to the draft. And then you get some guy like Bronny, which is this dude. You know what I'm saying? He ain't play. He ain't starting. He ain't player of the year. He ain't nothing. And now he's in the league, and he's gonna play in the league longer than me and make more money in the league than me, which is cool. I'm happy for Bronny. But for those players that were great college players and didn't have pro careers like they thought they were going to have, I think that it'd be great for them to be able to get some money that they are well deserved.
I think you mentioned it earlier, but there's momentum shifts in life. There's momentum in games. Okay, you're an athlete. I'm an athlete. Momentum can go positive or negative for whoever. Like for me, it could go negative or positive. Name a momentum shift in your life that shifted your direction, positive or negative, or
in life is when I had a son, it kind of changed things. I stopped playing ball for like 9 months and just wanted to raise my son. I had to learn how to speak Spanish because I'm in the Dominican Republic, so I'm pretty much fluent in Spanish now. But that playing for something that's bigger than me. I remember I'm having my best game over there in the Dominican Republic. I look over, like, all proud, like my son, he's watching his dad kill. I look over, that little dude sleep. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, man, I'm over here killing. But, no, that was you know, that was the first time that I really lived in a country without playing and got a chance to raise my son and become a father and, you know, try to be professional at that. And then the transitioning from being a father back into being a professional athlete and people thinking that I'm hurt. Like, why does he not play the last 9 months? Mm-hmm. And, you know, just he gave me the strength to dig deep because, you know, I could have said F it at that point. So, I mean, I tell people this story all the time. I went to a side of the Dominican Republic to where, you know, I didn't get paid to play. And, you know, you have to humble yourself. And I'm like, I was just on the first place team the last year in the Dominican Republic. But you see the stuff that Carmelo Anthony goes through and all athletes, like he can't play and you can still play. So I had to go over there and play for free and show people that I could play, get off into a smaller league in the Dominican Republic, kill that league to get back off into the big leagues in Mexico and Argentina and the first two divisions and stuff like that. But that was a momentum shift for me.
Man, I appreciate it. I know you're busy, dude, and you got a lot of stuff going on, and I appreciate you just stopping by, being a fellow Bear and all of that stuff, man. I'm glad we can get your story out. I mean, just talk about all the stuff that you've been through, and it's always good to hear stories like this.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and then I appreciate what you did for John Marshall before me. There's athletes like you that, like I said, that paved the way for athletes that come behind us, and so behind you. So I really appreciate that. And for me, it's, you know, when I do something like this in Oklahoma, it really means something to me, you know, because I really want to pour back whatever I can to help people from this area and just to share my story and my journey, and hopefully it helps other people in their journeys and path, professional with sports and in life. So thanks for having me on and giving me a chance to share my story, man. I really appreciate that.